Hey guys, this is Manish Sethi, and I'm here right now with James Swanwick. James runs a blog called jamesswanwick.com, and he's also the co-host of ESPN Sports Center in Australia. And James is one of the people who I consider a super connector. He basically knows everybody. Whenever I need an introduction to meet somebody, I always talk to James. And the first time that I met James was an inspirational story. I learned a lot from him because of the way that he approached me via email, the way that he conducted himself when we talked to each other, and then the way that he followed up with me after the email. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to ask you, James, you are like an expert networker. And I'm wondering, how do you go about finding the people that you want to meet? Mm-hmm. And then how do you go about approaching them and actually getting introductions and meeting them?
Okay, two things first. I don't like the word networker. I like the word connector. Networker is kind of like, for me, it's like a dirty word. It's like you're trying to meet someone to see what you can get from them to better yourself. Whereas a connector implies that you're trying to connect everyone around you. You're trying to be connected to people without actually just like taking. So mm-hmm. I look at it this way. Anyone I want to meet, first step, I just reach out to them. I find a way to reach out to them. For many people, that's like the hardest thing. It's like just saying to yourself, I want to meet this person. I can't call them. I can't email them. I don't know them. You know, the first step I do is I'm just going to do it. Second thing is that I always think about in their interests. What can I do for that person? Even if I'm reaching out to them because I want to get to know them and ultimately I think maybe they can help me. So I go into it with how can I help that person? So when I finally do meet these people, in the first 10 minutes of the conversation, I'm asking them about them. What do they need? How can I help you? Who can I connect you with? And after like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of doing that, the other person generally feels great rapport with me, mm-hmm. and they then in turn want to help me. So rather than going into like a meeting with someone and saying, hey, I'm James Swanwick, and I really need your help with this. Can you do this for me? Mm-hmm. I go in and say, hey, my name's James Swanwick. How can I help you? Who can I connect you to? And that in turn leads them to want to help me.
So when I sat down with you the first time, James, I didn't realize what you did for the first 10 or 15 minutes. It was like you were showing me your blog, we were talking about stuff, you were asking me about my business, you were asking me what I was doing in Colombia, and then after a few minutes, I wanted to see your site, and I pull up James's site, and on the front page is a picture of him with Cindy Crawford, a picture of him with like Owen Wilson or something. It's like a bunch. I'm like, what the hell? Who are you? Why do you know all these people? And it was an incredible. It was awesome. And so you just told me a story a little bit about how you met Keith Ferrazzi, who wrote that great book Never Eat Alone, which I think we actually have right here. Yeah. What's up, guys? Keith Ferrazzi's book. Check it out. So can you tell me a little bit about how you met Keith? That's a great story.
Yeah, sure. Well, Keith Ferrazzi is a best-selling author. He obviously wrote this book, Never Eat Alone, in 2005. I read it, loved it, and went, I've got to meet this guy. And this guy basically teaches you how to be a great connector of people. That's it. I started following him on Twitter, and then he tweeted out that he was going to be in a certain restaurant in New York on a certain night. I turned up to that restaurant just to go and meet him. He didn't turn up. He actually went to a different restaurant and forgot to tweet out that he wasn't going to be there. So I ended up standing around for 45 minutes waiting for him. He never showed up. I then went outside the front of the restaurant, took a photo of myself in front of the restaurant, went to his website, found like a generic email address for his assistant or whatever, emailed it through and said, hey, Keith, this is James. I turned up to the restaurant. You weren't there. Here's a photo of me there to prove that I was there. What happened? And then 2 days later, I got a phone call. It was like a 310 number from LA. I didn't recognize it. I answered. And it was like, hey, James, this is Keith Ferrazzi. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this is my hero. This is amazing. And he said, I'm so sorry. I apologize unreservedly. I forgot to tweet out that I was going to be in a different place. I'm going to send you a bunch of books. And I'm like, no, don't send me a bunch of books. But is it all right if I stay in contact with you over time and just connect with you, ask your advice? And by the way, can I help you with anything? What are you looking for at the moment? And he said to me, I'm trying to get a TV show up at the moment. I said, well, you know what? I know a lot of TV guys, TV producers in Los Angeles. I'm going to introduce you to them. So I did. Bang. And then straight away, it's like we got a great connection. And now, fast forward 2 years, I just went to Guatemala with him for 5 days and 4 nights on a charity trip raising money for his charity foundation. Mm-hmm. He's since helped connect me to a bunch of people. I've since helped connect him to a bunch of people, and now we're friends.
And I found that these sort of situations are very much like exponential. Like if you have nobody in your network, it's a little bit tough to start getting your first, add value to other people's networks because you don't know anybody. Yeah. But the more people that you meet, the more people you can connect other people to meet with.
Absolutely.
And everybody remembers you when you help them meet somebody they want to meet.
Absolutely. And the key also, I mean, I know I told the Keith Ferrazzi story. I didn't have an introduction to Keith, right? He tweeted it out. But the key here is knowing someone who knows the person that you want to connect with and having that person introduce you. Because when a friend introduces you to someone that you don't know and says you should meet this person, then that person is kind of like, there's a sense of obligation to meet this person.
Absolutely.
Not like, oh man, I have to do it, but it's like they want to help their friend. So what I find is that if I want to connect with someone who I don't know, I figure out who does know that person. Then I say, could you introduce me? Then they introduce me, and that person invariably takes a meeting with me.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to mention was your awesome method of following up after your meetings with people. The first time when I met James, after we met in a cafe in Colombia, and then the next morning I woke up to 6 emails from James, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But they were actually super interesting. What did you put in those emails? And do you do this all the time?
I do it most of the time. So any great book that I read that's kind of like a self-help book or anything that educates you on how to be a better person, I underline the best parts of that book. I then spend a few hours once I've finished reading it, typing it all out. I PDF it, turn it into like a nice sort of like 10-minute read. So you can read the whole book in 10 minutes. For example, I read this book and all the way through I underlined the best parts, typed it out, saved it as a PDF. So when I meet someone at the end of the meeting, I might say to them, hey, you know what? I read these great books. I've got the best parts of it. I think you'd really enjoy it. I'm going to send it through to you, and I think you'll learn a lot, and it'll really help you in your life. And they go, great, that'd be wonderful. So then the next day, I just make sure I do exactly what I promised. I send through those emails. I'm adding value to their life. They get to read 3 books in, say, half an hour. And like I sent it to you, and you told me that you really appreciated it.
Yeah, it was super memorable. Like I woke up and there was like first of all, you responded the next day with every single thing that you said we were going to talk about in the future. You had answered it in one email. You said like the 7 things that we talked about yesterday, and you gave summaries to it. And then there was 5 emails with a little PDF attachment of just like a page or 5 pages or 10 pages of just notes, and it was awesome. It was very impressive. I'm going to start doing that too, I think.
Yeah, and the follow-up is really key as well. Like, because you can do all this great work to get the meeting with whoever you want to meet with, but if you do nothing the next day or the day after, then it was pointless. It's like you must follow up really quickly within 24 hours, and always make a reference in that email to something that you talked about in your meeting, just to remind them, just to get that rapport going again, and always do what you say you're going to do. So if you say, I'm going to send you this, make sure you send that to them. Because if you don't, that person just, obviously they're going to think of you poorly, or they're going to think of you as someone that doesn't do what you promise.
I'm going to post this video on my blog on Monday. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, guys.
If you don't do it, then I'm cutting you as a friend.
Damn it, no!
You're done, Manish.
Anyway, James, thank you so much. And yeah, thanks a lot for your interesting insights and your time, man. I'll catch you guys soon. Enjoy.